What's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk to you about the two bombs that were dropped on Japan that essentially forced them to surrender and let the Americans win World War II. Watch the target on the screen. You're going to see a TNT explosion, and now you're going to see the same size bomb that uses nuclear fission. I think the video somewhat speaks for itself. We know that the two bombs that were dropped on Japan were made and tested in Los Alamos, New Mexico, where an assortment of scientists from all over the world helped work on the project, including big names like Albert Einstein. Harry Truman was the president who issued the bombs to be dropped on Japan, and Paul Tibbett was the first pilot who flew the Enola Gay over Hiroshima, which essentially was the first atomic bombing to ever take place on Earth. Now, this is Little Boy. Little Boy was the bomb dropped 2,000 feet above Hiroshima. And I'm going to go into statistics about Little Boy and the dynamics that make up the bomb. What's behind these atomic bombings is nuclear fission. I say this meaning and this terminology a lot, but what is it? Nuclear fission is when neutrons are pumped into a radioactive atom. In this case, scientists use uranium. And when enough neutrons are pumped into it, the atom splits. Now, if you have any understanding, or at least a basic understanding of chemistry, you should know that atoms are not supposed to split. So when they do, an enormous amount of energy is released, and the video I showed you proves that. Something really interesting about Little Boy that I read up about was, again, Little Boy was the first nuclear bomb to ever be dropped on Earth. Scientists wanted to make sure it exploded. They wanted to make sure it worked. So they used an excessive amount of radiation when building Little Boy. In fact, only about 1.4%, exactly 1.38, of the uranium in Little Boy actually fissioned when it exploded 2,000 feet above Hiroshima. The other 98.6% was drowned out from the explosion from this little tiny percentage. This little tiny percentage equates to about 0.7 grams of uranium. That's about the weight of a banknote, a dollar bill. 0.7 grams of uranium was enough to wipe out 2/3 of a city's buildings, take 80,000 lives in 43 seconds, and leave its survivors in wake of radiation poisoning and defects, along with their offspring who had these defects for life. This is Charles Sweeney. He flew the second plane, Bockscar, over another Japanese city. This is the bomb he dropped on that city. The US, and to this day, call it Fat Man. Truman ordered him to fly over Kokuru, a primary target, August 9th, 1944. However, when he flew over Kokuru, there was overcast, and he couldn't achieve visual confirmation of his target. And so he moved to his second target, Nagasaki, where instead 75,000 lives were taken in 2 minutes. Because of the clouds, Kokuru was spared. Humans can make weapons that mimic the winds of Neptune, and weapons that can make explosions that exceed the temperatures of our sun. But my phone still doesn't get service in Dooney's room. Let me know. Now, another interesting topic is the honor and pride that Japanese soldiers showed on the battlefield toward their country and their emperor in the war. These types of strategies and honor and actions of nationalism left Allied soldiers speechless. Kamikaze planes, one-man pilots that were used as projectiles that drove into Allied ships to break them down, were honored. You could see here Japanese women waving a cherry blossom, a national flower of Japan, towards a kamikaze pilot about to embark on his last mission. You can see footage of them flying in a failed attempt. Japanese soldiers were recorded to jump off of cliffs and swim out to sea rather than surrender in the name of their country. Again, these types of actions left Allied soldiers speechless. Even after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Japanese Minister of War urged his people to keep fighting. Hideki was actually the first major leader to speak up, and since he was the emperor, he had final word to say that, and I quote, "For the first time, the enemy has used cruel bombs. The casualties are stupendous." Now, this is the same man who was responsible and behind the planning of the Nanking Massacre, which, if you don't know, is the mass genocide of Chinese people based on the assumption that the Japanese people were a superior race to the other Asians, and because of that, they said, let's kill everyone else. They would practice sexually assaulting women and killing civilians. They would do things like throw babies up in the air and spear them, and force people to dig holes for themselves, and then use them for bayoneting. They would decapitate people. This is the bayoneting. They were also responsible for the sexual assault and rape of almost 80,000 women, and 300,000 innocent civilians were killed during this process. A mass genocide that I would definitely label cruel. This picture, again, just like the video, somewhat speaks for itself. A lot of people like to discuss whether or not the bombings were justified. If you personally ask me, I think they were more than justified. A country that refuses to surrender deserves to have all of its resources and people wiped out until they do, especially when you are responsible for actions like this. That's about all I have to say about that. Thank you for watching.